Welcome to the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we, a business owner and an artist, discuss the business of art and the art of business. Hey friends, I'm Carl, founder of Epic Made, and I'm the host of the Pixel Retentive Podcast, where we share our thoughts on creativity, art, and business. Past guests include Jack Seiler, creative director and design strategist, Nam Nguyen, the founder and CEO of Supervillain, and Cassandra O'Brien. We are forever grateful for the supporters of our podcast, and as always, we are looking for more sponsors. That said, Pixel Retentive is brought to you by the creative gurus at Epic Made. Epic Made is a team of artists and strategists who craft entertainment quality animation and illustration that grabs attention and gets results. With clients like Nickelodeon, WWE, and Sci-Fi, they know how to engage your audience. Visit getepicmade.com and let's collaborate on your next creative campaign. All right, so with us today, we have Danielle Letayf. How you doing, Danielle?
Good. How's it going, Carl?
Doing good. Did I just mess up your last name? I think I did.
No, it's perfect. And
it is. Sweet. I'm just going to act like I didn't say that. There we go. All right, so Danielle is the CEO and founder of Badassery, the podcast guest booking agency for bold visionaries who don't just follow trends, they set them. Throughout her career, she's been devoted to helping individuals build a personal brand that is as powerful as they are and make sure that they see that power too. That's pretty good there, Danielle. I love that. Like, you just, get on people's hype train and make sure they understand that they are the train, and the value they bring to the table. I love it. So
exactly.
Cool. And we met through that. I think I reached out to you through your website and was trying to get connected. Somebody told me about what you're doing and just that it was a cool, collaborative of founders. And next thing you know, we're chatting, and you sent us a bunch of podcast guests. We've shouted you out at least 5 or 6 times on the podcast already.
Oh,
so
really?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Check them out now.
Yeah, we always shout out all the intros. However, people got introduced me to whoever the guest is. So you've sort of been in the background for a while now. So
here I am officially.
Danielle's finally made it. Here we go. All right. So before we jump into today's topic, I'd love for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. So tell us how long you've been in your industry and what project you're most proud of so far.
Industry is an interesting word. Okay, in my industry, I guess I'm recently now in PR, about 5-6 years. Podcasting specifically, about 6 months.
Okay.
And then more broadly, community building and events and marketing, probably for 11-12 years now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how long have you been just as an entrepreneur, or would you identify as an entrepreneur?
Oh, yeah. Close to 7 years. Since I would say officially November, I forget the exact date, Carl. It was November 2018. So not yet 7 years, but we're getting there.
Awesome. So just in time to get your feet under you and feel good, and then COVID happens and the whole world's insane. So
exactly. So many pivots because of that, especially in my industry. But yeah, 7 years almost officially.
Yeah, wow, that's a good run. Anybody, if you can make it 7 years, you can do it. You just keep staying the course. So
I know you were telling me, how long have you been running your business, Carl? You said since you were 22. I don't know, obviously, how old you are now. That's I'm not going to make assumptions.
No, yeah, I just turned 40. So I started my company at 22, started my first company at 19, knew very early on that I was hopelessly unemployable in my own mind. If I was ever going to have a chance at being happy and having a life that I enjoyed, I wasn't going to be able to do it punching somebody else's clock. And I quit my last job in 2007, and I had a contract job that sort of worked like a job, but they were paying my business as a designer. I think I quit that in, 2011, 2010. So yeah. But that was I was making $12 an hour. It was not.
That's a lot. Do you know that? Well, I'm in New Hampshire now, and I was born and raised in New Hampshire. The minimum wage is the same as when I was 17 or 16. $7.25. Literally.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's 2025. What are we doing?
What can you buy in 40 hours of working at $7.25 after taxes and all the bullshit they take? Nothing.
I was at a rest stop in Vermont literally yesterday, driving back from Canada, and the price of Dentine ice, those mints that are in the $6.59. I was
fuck?
I know. But I don't know where the heck I was stopping, but I was like, that's literally, I couldn't even buy that on my 1 hour salary if I were working.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't even net $6 on a.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's like a pack of gum is an hour of your life, more like an hour and a half. Like it's a that movie with Justin Timberlake where like everybody like earns time, like
Oh,
yeah, it's like
balls.
I think it was called Time or something. But yeah, I mean, wow, like that's just crazy when you start thinking about like that, right? So
Yeah.
this is a great pivot, great start to talk about our conversation today of betting on yourself, right? Like what what better bet could you make in life than to bet on yourself? You got nobody to blame other than yourself if you fail and everything to gain if you do it right. So like I love this. So, I know you've been betting on yourself for quite a while now, and you've done, a lot of cool things in the space. You built a cool organization, like you've pivoted a couple times and seen some cool shit. Like the past 7 years are not like an ordinary run in like an entrepreneurship 7 years. Like it was serious. Like it took a lot of people out. So, I love to get some perspective, some wisdom for the audience here. If you're thinking about going out on your own or you're a founder or you need that pick me up, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah. What would I tell somebody who wanted to jump the gun kind of and start their own thing? Is that the question?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think you feel this way too, Carl, based on our conversations, but you have to do something that you are so obsessed with solving that those moments, like pandemic, like all the no's, like everything is not even enough to like throw you down, basically. And so you don't have to be, what I learned in the early days is you cannot be married to the actual success of what your life might look like in a few years, where I'm going to be a 7-figure entrepreneur who does XYZ. That actually doesn't matter in the end, because when you get into the trenches, you're like, I just literally need 1 hour paid of my time, or I just need, one more customer. I just need the one more. And so it's really like you genuinely have to fall in love with the people that you're serving, and not particularly even the solution. And I learned that the hard way, right? It's sort of like the reason I've been able to pivot so many times from a membership community of thought leaders to a speakers bureau to now a podcast guest agency, is because I've fallen in love with the problem and the people that I'm serving and have been able to move with them instead of just building solutions, and trying to push it on people, right? So I would definitely say, like, be in love with the problem and in love with the people that you're serving. That's going to get you extremely, extremely far.
That's great advice. Yeah, I mean when shit gets hard, right? Like, and it inevitably will. I don't care if you got the best plan and a big stack of money and whatever. Like, you're gonna hit a wall eventually. And if you're not motivated by the right things, you're gonna fail right there. Like, you're not gonna be able to get punched in the face and then get back up and go, let me do it again. Oh, one more time. Oh well, I can't. Like, I can tell you, I spent the better part of 15 years failing in the right direction. Right? Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that plan B was figure out plan A. Like, if you have a plan B, if you're just like, oh well, if I don't hit these specific little, it's gonna be nearly impossible for you to make it through the shit you don't even know you don't know. Right? Like COVID, for instance. No one saw COVID coming. And anybody that was a quasi entrepreneur that sort of had one foot in the door and was like, I got my, like, they all quit. Like, I saw a bunch of
Yeah.
and it's like I saw people that built businesses bigger, better, faster than mine. I'm over here jealous, right? Because they started after me and ran right past me, right? It's like, and then they just died in COVID, and it's like, I'm just the tortoise. I'm just gonna just keep walking, like, what? And it's just an interesting concept. Like, it's really, really important that you're deeply devoted to the idea of what you're doing, like you said.
Yeah, and to plus one to what you're saying is also have this deep understanding that literally nothing is in your control. As much as you fall, even I'm going to even take back what I said, as much as you even fall in love with the problem and the people and all that stuff, you also have to relinquish the idea that you can always build a solution in the way that you think it's going to look. And to your point around COVID, right? I mean, I think that the makings of a great entrepreneur are fluidity. It's, yes, resilience. It's a million other things, but if you're not able to move as quickly or in the same stream as the problem is going, then you're just going to drown. To your point, like, people are going to pass you. Maybe they're going to pass you in a bad way. I don't know, or maybe they might crash and burn. But like, the tortoise is actually not a bad, it's not a bad thing to be a tortoise, because it's probably actually just going where the road is taking him, right? So I think that's a huge piece of it too, is just the relinquishing of any semblance of control, which is completely terrifying and takes a lot of work and doesn't happen on day one. It's many mistakes, many processes that get you to the point of like, oh my God, I just have to succumb. I just have to, or I'm going to drown, or, I don't know if you've gone through something similar. I can imagine in the 20 years you've been a founder. Yes. Cause yeah, right. It's like every day, even now.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, oh man.
I was terrified one time. I got in the first really bad financial place I'd ever been in. And like I had my like perfect credit score and I was like, just fucking polished, pristine human being in my brain. Like all these like things that I held true about myself that had nothing to do with my character or anything. It was just like young, dumb Carl that like thought these things were part of my identity. And I remember I had this dream and I was panicking and like all I remember is like I'm hanging on to this ledge for dear life and I'm looking down, I'm gonna fall and I'm gonna die and like visceral, like it was wild. And then I looked over next to my hand and I saw someone else had signed their name right there and it wasn't my name. And like I had this weird moment and I was like, oh, people have been here before. This isn't as crazy and as terrifying. Other people have been through this. Like somebody wrote their name right here. Like, what am I doing? And then I let go. And I had like the falling dream where I woke up in my bed and I was like, what the fuck was that? And it was really cool, but very liberating. Like where I just learned to just let shit go. And it's like, I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I'm on the right path. And I get up every day feeling good. And like, this is what I should be doing with my life. And I always preach to my team, like, I don't do like religion, any of that stuff very much. I think we talked about that a lot, but a little bit, but like I'm deeply spiritual. And it's like, look, I know that the universe wants us to succeed. And I don't even know what the fuck that means, but like, I feel it. And I say that to my team every time we get at a hard spot, and we've gotten like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and then crawled back out and got big projects and get on top higher than we've ever been. It's like, how do we just keep the faith of like what we're doing, and just keep betting on yourself, right? If like you can't fail unless you quit. And if you're adaptable and fluid, like you said, and like, hey, like something's come my way, well, I'm going to evaluate that and look at all the things I have and know myself and my team and who's with me. And then how do we tackle that, because you can't fail if you don't stop trying, right? Like that's been my mentality,
I mean, I love it. And it's extremely positive. And I think you said something really interesting too, which is most likely somebody else has also been in that shitty position. Like I remember several times my bank account going negative, right? And you think this is so embarrassing, right? Like on the outside, everyone thinks this business is awesome. And it's not to say that it's not, right? Those ideas can coexist. Bank account can be negative, business can be awesome. You can be awesome, right? But to your point, sort of like the way that we're raised and conditioned is that those things do equal your worth. And then I remember messaging I guess I'd call him a friend tour, one of my really good friends who's a founder, and he's like, "Oh, it went negative, like boo hoo." Basically, he's like, "This has happened to me 150 times, like big deal. Like take a loan." Raise some money, like also money exists everywhere. If that's the core issue, go get it somehow, make a sale, shift your mindset, whatever it is. So I think there is solace in knowing that other founders have most likely been in your position too, because that actually is the most terrifying piece when you think it's just you or you're doing something poorly, especially financially. So that really resonated with me. And I remember our first conversation, Carl, you did mention sort of being in like lots of debt, crawling back out. Even now you're kind of like on a high point too, which is, I mean, it's incredible and it's really difficult.
Yeah, there's just something, it's some combination of bravery and stupidity that allows you to keep going. Like, it's like no reasonable human being makes it through some of these times, right? And it's because we've had this passion and this devotion to this direction and this idea. And it kind of clouds all those normal risk tolerances that most people have, right? Like, well, I'm just going to go get a 9 to 5 and I know I'm going to get this check, but like even that isn't what we thought it was, right? Like companies go out of business all the time. And again, it keep going back to COVID. Like, who got paid every time, never missed a paycheck? My whole team through COVID, right? Like people lost their corporate job and didn't know what was going on. Had months of uncertainty. A lot of people at big corporations who just like, oh, well, we got to cut these 45 numbers from the spreadsheet. Those are 45 human beings. Like, they don't care. They're just worried about their profit margins. Like it's a totally different mindset when it's small businesses that actually like I actually genuinely really care about everybody on my team, right? Like
That's
the
right.
as a human being, there's so much value there, I think. And so when I'm betting on them and they're betting on me, and now we're all got something very powerful, right? And we can handle all the waves. We can handle all the bullshit, weather any storm, right? Like because they know we've got each other's back. There's just a lot of solidarity there. So
Yeah,
building at
exactly.
scene is the same vibe there. So
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting too, because I often think, and you sort of said this about yourself, which is like it's a mix of stupidity and something else. I can't remember.
bravery.
Guys like not having bravery.
Yeah.
I mean, it is also important to assess the extent to which we push, at least for myself. I don't know if you asked yourself this question too, is like, am I actually being too resilient? Sometimes I ask myself that, which is, am I pushing for a problem or a solution too much to a point where people actually don't want it? And I'm being blind to the fact that it's just not going to work. Those have been the points where I actually have made really difficult decisions to like shut pieces of my business down, add a new piece. I don't know if you felt that as well, where sometimes it's sort of like, is it almost too blind of positivity? Or do you ever question sort of the point at which it's almost too resilient, or you and your team are being too resilient?
Well, yes, but I don't necessarily look at it from a point of too resilience. And I probably have way too much like cup is half full on everything. But like I step back sometimes and look at all the things. And this great branding exercise that a friend of mine told me about, Deanna Lewis, she owns a company called Brand Smash Studios, and she helped me rebrand my company early on. I'd say we rebranded like 2015, 2016 timeframe, but
Yeah.
the idea was like, hey, look, if you had seven pieces of business and there are seven different offerings that you have, right? And they're all let's level the playing field on all of them. Same amount of effort, same amount of profit margin, same amount of everything. The only thing different is what you're executing on. Which one are you picking up first? Well, oh shit, I'm doing this one. This is my favorite. Well, which one are you
Yeah.
never going to pick up? Well, these two, that one for sure. Boom. Oh, and then you start going prioritizing and starting. That's an easy way to do some introspection on what
Yeah.
things you should be servicing, because you want to be able to dump tons of passion into a thing. So kind of my perspective on what you said is that like I'm always evaluating like our because we can do all these things doesn't mean we should, right? Because when I started the business, we did everything for everybody, right? And to make it in Photoshop or Illustrator, I was whipping it out. I was printing T-shirts for the DEA in my garage, like while I was smoking a joint. It wasn't even legal back then. Like just
Yeah.
I never ordered again, by the way, but like it's okay. But like it's just like but that stuff wasn't fueling me, right? I was just making t-shirts and I didn't give a shit. Like, and it wasn't like these weren't innovative. It wasn't like breaking the mold. But like when we started doing more animation, more storytelling, more illustration, really deeply visual things, that stuff really excites us. And then I started looking at like the market share and the profit margins on some of these things, and like, well, there's a lot of scalability here. Like, I don't want to print a million t-shirts, but I can do a Super Bowl ad for $1 million. Like, so it's like, why am I going to spend a bunch of time over here? So just figuring out like what is serving me and what was serving my company, and then going, how do we reinvest in those things and figure out like, hey, well, this type of work isn't really good for us, or this client, like sometimes there's bad fit clients where it's like, I don't want your money anymore. Like, I've had people reach out. It's like, I'll just price it 5 times higher than I normally would, and just be like, yeah, we're just doing really good now. And it's like, they'll just go away. And it's great because the last time I worked with them wasn't worth the money. And if they showed up at a 5 times price margin, I would have a lot more leniency for dealing with their bullshit, like, so.
I like that tactic.
And then you don't feel bad. You didn't ignore them. You're not being a bad person. You're just like, this is the price. Like, so
It's real.
I feel like I ADD'd all the way over onto that topic, but
no. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's sort of like, maybe it's not so much of like too much resilience, but to your point, it's sort of like continuously assessing, almost like a fusion of two things. Is it actually working for the business, and are we still loving it? And those things, and something I realized in like the past few years of being a founder, which I didn't expect when I started my business, is that my love for pieces of the business will die down. Even though when I started like super gung-ho about certain pieces of it, I was like, this is me forever. I am this forever. And then, I don't know if you have this experience too. And then at some point you're like, I don't like this anymore. And maybe, he's kind of like at this pivot point of like, if it's working for the business, but I don't like it, do I do it? Do I outsource it? Do I sell it? Do I do all these things? So there's like so many intersections to consider, but I like the idea, obviously, and it's super important to assess the business continuously, but not just the business, you and the team, right? That's completely important.
100% agree. Yeah, I have had that experience. I actually really don't care for graphic design very much personally, which I have a graphic design degree. I started this as a graphic design studio. And,
Yeah.
and we still do amazing graphic design, but we've hired on designers that really have a love for it. And it really, I always felt like stifled and like it wasn't working for me when I was in that space. And I been able to kind of I will first of all, I grew out of actually being on the art team, which is a weird head trip, right? I don't do any art for Epic Made. I'm not on the creative team. I actually, I have so much I forget the word I'm looking for here, but everyone on the team is of equal say and value to me, right? If you've been here and we're doing the thing, like I'm going to take your opinion as much as my own opinion, as much as anybody's, and we're going to talk about it, right? And make decisions as a team because we're all of our livelihoods is at stake, right? I'm not the all-knowing, omnipotent one. I'm just the brave idiot up front that can just keep getting punched in the face for indefinitely, apparently. But I hate to use that euphemism. That I guess it's a euphemism, yeah. But that's what it feels like sometimes. But I had to fall in love with designing a business. I had to change the things I loved about this, and change it wasn't a forced thing. It was just a shift in perspective. Like, hey, I no longer have pride that I push the pixels around. I have pride that I built the machine that outputs these things and has this community and this culture and is building this reputation and brand. And that felt really amazing. So shifting away from being the creator and the person with my hands, because I used to do everything. I used to code websites and nerds and notepads. Like, I don't even know how to do that anymore. And now, like, that's no one even custom codes websites really anymore, at least not unless they need some high level function. Like, you bang something out in Squarespace in an afternoon and you charge 10 grand for something that Squarespace can spit out in a half an hour. So
Yeah.
staying dynamic and understanding where the things are going and where your value continues to change and evolve in the marketplace, right? Like you were talking earlier, how like even with your new thing, sorry, this glare is like a weird uplight on my face. It's you were talking like how as you're seeing like people need more than like one service that you're offering, like you need to layer them both in for it really to have the synergistic effect that like people were looking for, and that's awesome. You gotta be able to have enough breathing room to even look at that, right? So if you're working too hard or you don't have enough support, like sometimes you can get lost in the weeds there too. So
Definitely. And I think the reason also this time around I was able to do that is sort of having an openness to diving into something I don't know, even more so than before. So I'll give you an example. So I'll just explain what you were talking about, Carl. So, right, we were talking about having this podcast guest agency, but realizing people just don't want placements. They also want personal brand support and strategy around it to maximize the impact of the placements, right? And so people actually started offering to pay us to help them with it. And I feel like podcast Danielle would have said absolutely not, because it's just not what we do. And then I was like, people are literally offering money even though we don't know how to do this. Like, let's just say yes, right? And it's funny too, because the past 6 months I've gone into learning about the podcast space because I know nothing about it almost. So it's almost like having learner's cap on again for every piece of the business. And it's been so refreshing after 6-7 years of doing this to have to redo it. Is an extremely humbling experience. But I don't even remember what you were alluding to before this, but I wanted to point out the fact that you also have to be open to jumping in before you're ready, which I think is a very cliche thing to say, but it made me extremely uncomfortable to say, yes, we do this service when I had no idea how to execute on it. But I felt kind of confident that I could figure out a solution that was like just enough. You kind of have to be like, this is just enough for, you don't have to lie. You don't have to lie, but you have to be confident in the fact that you can find a solution and pivot in that way, especially to your point around kind of like Squarespace and AI, like there's so many tools to learn now. So just like continuously being a student is so important and so fun, because then, you might lose the love for, like you said, maybe designing the engine that powers your team. Like you're becoming another kind of student now, right? But it might be in a different position, whatever it is. But continuing to shift your mentality about what you should be doing or what you love, it's just it's extremely important to keep going and to keep things spicy. Like we don't have to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's forcing us.
Yes. And something you mentioned, and I hear this, saying all the time that like, entrepreneurs jump off the cliff and build the parachute on the way down. And that really is like how this goes. It's because I think one of the big things that we all have in common is we're lifelong learners. Like we really love to dive into things and continue to learn. And like our generation has seen obscene amounts of innovation very quickly, right? Like, and I don't know how much older I am than you, but like it's been crazy the shit I've seen since I was born in '85, right? So it's like the internet didn't exist, and now I can literally live video chat my friends in the Philippines on my phone. Like that's while I'm on a walk in the woods, not even on Wi-Fi. It's like insane. Meanwhile, the banks still take 2 weeks to send your money through a wire transfer to another country. Just want to throw that stab out there, pro Christo. Anyways, but it's like, there's never any harm when you're a lifelong learner and you love to learn things and people have, so someone comes to you, this is what I heard you say, and says, I love what you're doing here. I love your services here. I really like you as a person and what you're doing with this company. I'd love it if you could offer me this service. So they're already saying that they see things in you that lead them to believe that you could do this. So even if you're not there yet, you can be candid with someone and go, hey, look, I've never offered that service to anyone before. I think it would be where I would need about this much to make it worth my time to explore, but I'm pretty confident I could kick ass with that. So like, there's never any harm in trying things, especially when you're in an experience where you're like, hey, I like this person. We're already doing good business with them. They seem open to this idea. I'm not like bait and switching anyone. You don't have to worry about any imposter syndrome if you're just being upfront with them.
Yeah.
And then, like happened to you, you might land on something that feels really good that you wouldn't have done without someone going, hey, you should try this out, right? So you always have to be open. Like that's the part of the visionary, right? Like you have to have vision. You have to be looking around and seeing things, So I love that.
I think also what you said too, in terms of having candor, is so important. I feel like people hide from the fact that you should just be honest all the time, right? Like, and early on in my founder journey, I was like not telling. I mean, it wasn't not telling people the truth, but I was overselling because you just need your first clients or whatever. As you say, yeah, of course I've done that. I've done X, I've done Y, I've done Z. Let me charge you the same amount, maybe as another agency or whatever. When the reality is, to your point, in this example too, when people have come to us for personal brand help, it's like we did exactly that. We have framed it as a beta to be fully honest that this is not our original specialty, but we understand the tools it takes to navigate the challenges. Here's the beta. We're expecting also, some feedback in return, and it's priced at whatever, whatever feels good. But for us, it's like about half the price of another agency. Because I don't want to go into this again feeling like discomfort in overselling. There's no point, right? That's when it also becomes fun. Of course, it's a place of luxury to be able to maybe sell a beta at a price that's different than a typical agency. But I do think the point of being honest is so instrumental. And, I mentor quite a few younger people and they're like, I don't know how to say this to my boss, or I don't know how to say this to my customer. I'm like, just say it. Like, just say it as it is and just be honest. If you're like respectful, you're not throwing F-bombs to your boss. Like, I don't know, just say it as it is and be honest. And that resonates with people. They want to know. They don't want to be, they don't want to be gypped. They don't want to be played. Like, I also don't want to be played, like it goes both ways. So you're right. And then you can go into it as a student with excitement versus a student with so much pressure of like getting an A+ on the exam. It's different. Yeah. And building continues to become fun.
Yeah, 100%. And look, the school analogy in there was great. Like, school wires us to have this like pass fail mentality and like, I'm A student, I only do. And it's like that's like it stops the progress of good. Like, perfection is the enemy of progress, right? Like, you have to just move forward and keep doing things. And as long as it's in real, ethical capitalism, whenever someone makes a transaction, everyone has the facts and they feel that the value exchange works on both sides. I'm going to give you X, and in return, I'm going to get Y, and I feel good about that price, and you feel good about charging me that, and the work you're going to do feels good, and my results. So everything, like, that's how that's supposed to work, and you can't have that without really good candor. So it's, and we have some leaders that have varying antithesis of those examples, and we see where that's going right now, right? Like, it's not going great. No one wants to deal with that bullshit. So yeah, I love that. That's definitely a huge thing. And I think a huge thing in the success of my company, like we've been slowly plugging along, but when we make
Yeah.
relationships, we make them for life and people love us and we get referrals and start building networks and relationships. I tried to do a lot of crazy stuff last year because I was like desperate for work, right? And I started doing paid ads and like spending way too much money on partnering with other agencies to run all sorts of different things that I wasn't even really set up to deliver value in terms of my marketing outreach. And it's like, what really like, and then I realized like I could spend $100,000 promoting the best ad to the exact demographic, but like, why would those people trust an ad or trust my website or why would they do it? Like, because they're already in the space. They've been working in these industries. Like, we're not going after like, entry level graphic designers. We're going after like senior level creative directors at giant corporations. Like, they're going only taking in new people through word of mouth and referrals. The only way into those spaces is to know somebody. And the only way to do that is to network and to join organizations and be a part of masterminds and be a part of collectives and like get out there and get people to know you and like you and trust you and want to try to do some business with you. And then when you get those opportunities, you go as hard as you can and do the best work you can. And that usually works out. Like, that's a great solution for almost any professional services. So,
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious, what do you feel like is your special sauce in getting all of those referrals? Because you mentioned obviously we have clients for life, or we maintain our relationships for life. Do you have any tips?
yeah, we really love people. Like I've imbued
Yeah.
my personality and character and ethos into the company and treat everyone on my staff that way, that they're appreciated. I see them as a human being and I love them and they're amazing and I'm happy that they're here and on this journey with me. And then we treat our clients the same way and we have respectful conversations and we have fun. Lots of fun. Like, so the work's amazing, right? We do great work. You can't get in the door without your work being great. But when someone actually enjoys the process with you and your team and your interactions, whether it's with accounting and your invoice is late and hey, we just need to talk about it, like what's going on, or if it's like, hey, I don't understand your feedback. It's not like some uppity art director, like, you don't understand the current design trends. Like, no, it's like, hey, I want to understand where you're coming from here. Like, let's jump on a quick call. We crack some jokes. We have a good time. Like, it's a fun experience. Like,
Right.
I don't want to do this shit if we're not having fun. I don't want to do anything if it's not fun.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that's sort of, I think, the secret sauce. Just like people work with people they enjoy, right? And if you create an enjoyable experience for someone, they're going to continue to do work with you, especially if everything else is working.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also a good lesson in depth versus breadth, right? I think, at least in my case, I don't know if you felt the same in the past 20-ish years of you running the business, but I was extremely focused on having a huge number of customers. And so, at the time that my business reflected that. So it was a thought leadership community. So we had really big scale. But what ended up happening over the years, obviously, is like you're on building one-on-one relationships with people. And so as I've shifted the business a little bit more to be one-on-one clientele, you just feel the difference to your point. It's like you connect much more. Referrals are much stronger, but it's just like I love the idea of it's not particularly slowing down because I don't know it's not really slowing down, but just being hyper focused on the work that you're doing, the people that you're doing it with. And then yeah, everything will naturally come. But it has to be a genuine love. It can't just be something that's feigned to your point. And I can tell even like, in our conversations and all the podcasts you've had too, you like really vibe with everybody, or at least try to, right? Make that connection. Uh, yeah, and I feel like everyone, because I also work with a bunch of corporate clients too, and their day jobs, they're pretty repetitive, right? And I sometimes feel like it's up to us, those like sort of external vendors or whatever we want to call ourselves, to come in and shake it up, and help them almost like reimagine what could be versus what's inside already at their organizations. That's kind of like the transformation piece that I really enjoy too, because being a small business is a superpower. I think oftentimes people they look at like the VC backed companies, which are obviously extremely impressive and they're just different. But being a small business, it's like there's so much heart in every person that's on the team. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it really is like the work family, right? Like, and to your point on that corporate model, like they don't take risk. They can't afford to take risks. It's against their
Yeah.
bylaws. They're trying to put as much reliable money into the shareholders' hands as possible, right? Like that's their job. The whole corporations are set up that way. And we aren't money focused necessarily. Like we need to make money and we've got goals and all that sort of like it's a business. We're here to make money, but that isn't the only deciding factor. It's not the primary deciding factor every single time. And so taking risks, changing things up, especially when they work fine, like don't fix it if it ain't broken. Like, well, it could be antiquated. That doesn't mean it's broken. It's just like it could be done way better and like this fresh lens. So like when you come in, to your point, as an outside contractor, you can bring so much more color and creativity and excitement to whatever you're doing that like, they're just like in this stale cubicle with, one of their 3 suits on that they wear every day. And like, it's just like, and look, it's not all like that, but like,
Exactly. I was gonna say
it is like that in my head though, which it probably keeps me motivated to be over here, at my house with my crazy color changing lights. So I don't know. But I did have that corporate job when I was in design school. I was going to school full time and I was working full time, and I had I was working for this company that got bought out by a giant PC company, but they were like a Fortune 500 company, had a government contract doing all like the security, all the like intranet stuff for the Navy Marine Corps, and I fucking hated it. Like it was the most dull, boring art, like just mindless job ever. I was making great money, had a secret security clearance, like I was 22. I was driving a Land Rover, and I was like, none of these things were doing anything for me. It didn't make me happy. I didn't want to get out of bed on Sunday because like that was my last day off, and like it was, but like after about noon on Sunday, I would get like a pit in my stomach because like I'm counting down the time, and like I just like I was literally depressed and miserable, and I quit that job the first day of my honeymoon in 2007. I've been doing this full time ever since. But yeah, that was, I just like, you got to look at yourself and like know what works for you. Cause I still have some friends that work at that company and have moved on up the ladder and they're making 200 grand and they're happy. And like, that's amazing for them. It was never going to be me. Like I literally wouldn't have survived. Like,
I mean, that makes sense. I feel like, especially for someone who's so creative, to be in a sterile environment, I can understand very quickly how that clashes. I mean, I worked in corporate also for probably 5 years and I loved it. I think it's the reason why it set me up so well for founding a business in my 20s at least. But obviously there was a pivot point where I was like, this sucks, get me out. But it was incredible because you have a sandbox to create with stability, right? You said it, like stability is extremely important. As much as we say like, oh, they're like making 200K, 100K, whatever it is, like everyone can decide how much they need. But it was such a blessing to be able to have income and be an entrepreneur at the organizations. I was at AOL. It was a thing. They literally gave me an AIM screening when I joined. I was like, whoa. But then they got acquired by Verizon Media, and like it was just so cool to be at somewhere so old school, trying to do something so new school, and then going through acquisitions. Like it was probably like the biggest blessing I could have received. So I think there's so many pros to corporate, and I don't want to who knows, maybe one day we'll both go back to corporate. I don't know, like. Yeah, you're like, no,
you'll find me in the dirt in the backyard before you find me at a corporate job.
Yeah, but I always like, I don't feel like everybody has to be a founder or a business owner. I really don't. And yeah, I think corporate small businesses, whatever, if you want to be an employee, it allows for so much learning in a different capacity. Not everyone is this risk tolerant or psychopath, right? Yeah. So like, and I did want to give a shout out to corporate and to my teams and to my bosses. Like it was really another form of education that I got. Obviously, it's not perfect. It's a big reason I left. But it's incredibly useful to start off with something with that much structure too.
I think to your point there, there's something, I talk about introspection and knowing yourself, and like, yeah, obviously you're a little different than me in that space, and that's great. But at the end of the day, like, there's no one path to success. There's no right way to do this. There's no playbook somebody can hand you. It is all in here, and you have to unfold it and find it as you're navigating and learning and paying attention. There isn't like a magic way that this works for everybody. There's no 2 paths that are the same. And so the more you understand yourself and your strengths, you can play into those things and build your whatever it is you're building around that. So that's really the big message I want people to leave with there. So
amen. Cool. Agreed.
Cool. So look, this has been fun and it went crazy fast.
It did.
Not surprised. But so we are coming up on time. So before we wrap, I would like to ask you one last question. Is there anyone or anything in your career you'd like to shout out to the audience? Maybe a mentor, valuable resource, favorite client?
Yes, it was that person I told you about who told me not to be scared that my bank account went negative. His name is Dennis Edward. He's a founder himself. He's actually based in Singapore, but we met in New York. And he is one of the biggest risk takers I've ever met. And is not afraid to like bulldoze and fail and fall and flip and do all these things and then give back. That's the biggest piece. Is he never does it alone. He has always brought me in on his ventures in the early days so we could collaborate. He's been a huge mentor, and I'm also the godmother of his baby now too. So it's kind of like what you were talking about with your team, Carl, in terms of having that foundational trust that we can do anything together, even though we're literally across the world from each other, like Asia, US. I always know that he's there to just whip some reality into me with love.
That's beautiful. We all need those people in our lives.
We do.
100%. Yeah. Fortunately for me, I married that person when I was 22, and we've been together now for 20 years. We got together when I was 20. And yeah, every time I fall on my face, she's like, "Get up, you got this." And she's never wrong. So it's been a beautiful run. So.
Oh, that's amazing.
Shout out to my wife, Alden.
Yeah. Shout out to Alden. Is she a founder too?
Yeah, she owns a solar investment company and a company that does training and leadership in DEIJ. So they're having a fun time right now.
Oh God, I can imagine.
But you know what? She ain't scared. She's doing her thing. They're just gonna keep on keeping on and standing up for what's right. And then helping people. So that's really all. That's what's more American than that. Read the Statue of Liberty if you forget. So.
Exactly.
Awesome. So anyways, who connected us? I was trying to figure this out earlier. I don't remember.
Did I reach out to you? Well, you said you submitted through the website, but I wonder if I reached out to you.
I'm not sure. So we usually do a shout out. If you guys, I'm sure if this isn't your first episode, we have to shout out to the universe bringing us together. We'll figure this out eventually. Anyhow. All right. So we've been talking with Danielle, and Danielle is the CEO and founder of Badassery. You can check out her website at badassery-hq.com. So that's badassery-hq.com. But if listeners want to follow up with you directly, where should they go?
LinkedIn. It's just /Danielle Letayf.
All right. Danielle Letayf. That's Letayf. And that'll be in the comments and all the stuff that goes with the episode.
Awesome.
All right, Danielle, thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Carl.
We really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe to join us on our next journey through the world of art and business on the Pixel Retentive Podcast.